And we're live, streaming to you from historic Founders Park in Ocean Grove, New Jersey. We are Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and we're delighted that you could join us for our unique podcast community, where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished artists. Today we're streaming live for our first time from YouTube and from Facebook Live, so that's exciting. And we're going to be adding more platforms to our live streaming, so just stay tuned. We have a wonderful duo today. Oh, before we do that, remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on guests and topics. Also, to see our 170 past episodes, check out our website with our vault on www.jasontram.net. Our guests today are a folk Americana duo of Sea and Stone. They began in January 2014 when Luke Dierkmer and Morgan Manson matched on Tinder. Immediately exhibiting a rare vocal chemistry, the two began writing and performing across their home state of Missouri. In 2016, they got married and began recording their first full-length studio album, self-titled Of Sea and Stone, and released in December of 2017. Ahead of the release, the duo packed up their home and hit the road with a full-time tour schedule. They shared the stage with several talented artists, including Jonah and the Lion, Tyler Hilton, and Hush Kids. They have played the historic Blueberry Hill Duck Room in St. Louis, the notable Stubbs Barbecue in Austin, Texas, the Mint in Los Angeles, 12 News Today in Phoenix, and Good Morning San Diego, among the many other venues. Welcome, Luke and Morgan.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. We're happy to be here.
So glad you can join us. And you're our first guest from St. Louis, so how are things in St. Louis today?
They're doing better than they have been over the past year.
We're showing signs of life. That's great.
Yeah, it is a hot one. Very hot and humid, but other than that,
it's going to be a warm one today. Well, we're going to heat it up here, talking about some great music. And so you guys met on Tinder. What a great story.
Yeah. We matched, I guess, in like the fall of 2013, and we were both super busy, but eventually met up to play music. In early 2014, actually, I guess.
Yeah,
it was
January.
Like a few days into 2014 is when we actually met, and we talked about it, decided where to go, and I was like, hey, why don't we meet at Target, which is in the Columbia Mall. It's a small town, so like that's the place, like one of the landmarks where you can meet.
And I was kind of like, oh, maybe he's gonna buy me a coffee in there, something. We'll chat a little bit. And instead, like, I pulled in the parking spot and I just like looked and I was like, oh, hi. And he waved back at me and he just went like this. And he drove away. And I was sitting there for 30 seconds and I was just like, what am I supposed to do in this moment?
Where'd you go?
I followed him, which is probably not the best choice. However, look where it's landed us.
Not how you'd want your children to handle that situation, but yeah.
It was not the safest choice. And I probably wouldn't do it again. However, we pulled up.
It was meant to be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It was fate. I just had a feeling. But we pulled up in front of his duplex at the time, and then we went in and we sang a song together. And I was just so impressed with the blend of our voices, because I've been singing since I was 2. And in choir, you know, you're always trying to blend with everyone and sound like one voice. And when we sang, I was like, wow, that is not something that happens easily. So I was like, we need to.
Do you both have choir backgrounds? I'm a choir director, so I have to ask. So tell me you do.
Yeah, I do. I always have. You were in choir a little bit.
I do. Like, if I was putting it on a resume, yes, technically I do. But I went to a pretty small private high school, and I think the most people we ever had in choir was like 9.
Wow.
And I think I was the baritone section, and it was, none of us took it seriously, and my teacher would just beat me over the head with like, you can't scoop into everything. This is not. So I don't know. She couldn't break me. Luckily, I guess, but
Now you can scoop as much as you want.
yeah, exactly.
In pop music, anything goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As long as you guys scoop together, you're in good shape.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You got good at that.
Yeah.
So what was your first song you sang?
So we sang Poison and Wine by the Civil Wars. And
Oh,
the
great song.
Civil Wars are a huge inspiration for us, even though they're broken up now.
Yeah, they actually broke up not that long after we after we met. But yeah, and it's funny. I think we've only ever even tried to perform that song live once, because even though our voices blended really well and we knew it was kind of special, we also knew that it was just out of our range, like that big part of that song. So it's weird to me that we've maybe played it live once and people ask, they're like, please play that song. We're like, we're not that good at it, so I kind of forgot it.
But that high part is a little out of range for you.
So tell me about your the music that inspired you both growing up. What are some of each of your individual influences?
You can go first.
Alrighty, well, for me, I was in the choir background, so I always loved like choral music. And then as I started, I decided I wanted to play piano, so I got piano lessons. And when I started doing that, I started looking toward like Ingrid Michaelson, Regina Spektor, like this piano and female vocal. And that was like a huge inspiration for me in high school when I started trying to write songs for the first time. Now, they were not that good, I will admit.
Takes practice, like everything else, right?
Somewhere. You got to start somewhere. And then as I grew and in college, I really kind of went to this folky lane. A lot of it was also meeting you and kind of getting like a whole nother source of music, where things started to be more like the Head and the Heart and the Lumineers. Some of those like folky pop artists. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a long, like big range for me, and I like most music. So it's kind of good to have an influence in like a bunch of different directions and kind of hone it into what we are.
Yeah. For me, I grew up on, my first, I guess, musical influence was John Denver. My dad was a huge John Denver fan. That's why, I expressed an interest in playing guitar, and that's why when my dad bought me a guitar, he's like, you got to learn John Denver songs.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
Of which I don't know any John. I could maybe get my way through Take Me Home Country Roads. But then I moved into, I like Jack Johnson, and then, but John Mayer was probably the one that I was the most, that's where I started going from music just being something I really liked and enjoyed playing guitar and enjoyed playing those songs, to where John Mayer's like lyrical writing made me want to write songs. And so that's kind of where it transitioned into something that I wanted to do, where I was telling my own story. And then from there, a friend sent me Ho Hey by the Lumineers, and I thought, it's a pretty good song. And the more it got stuck in my head, and I didn't really think about it. Next thing you know, I was like super into like folk music and stuff. And
the folk revival, yeah. My daughter's 16, she loves pop music, and that's on her playlist. So I'm like, that's such a strange piece to be on a pop playlist, but she loves that song. And I grew up loving that, so I've been researching them too, listening to them on different platforms.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love how we can take all these disparate elements, all these different styles. We had a guest on here who's a famous author, talks about Beethoven, and he talks about the composers of today, they stand at the wreckage of so many different schools of composition. They put together their own unique things. That's what you guys do. You put together all these different styles into something totally new.
Yeah. And it's like the fact that too we have two voices. And our voices are different, but they blend so well. I feel like we have this range that we can really go forward with.
Yeah. It almost sort of, I wouldn't say it works against us, but it's like when you're putting together something that's thematic, it can be tough because we do have so many influences, and when you start writing a song, you just do what sounds right for the song, and then next thing you know, you're like, this doesn't sound like the last thing we put out. It doesn't sound like anything we put out. So then you kind of have to either have to trust your audience that they're going to come with you to the next thing, or you have to find a way to tie it in.
Yeah.
So it can be a little bit challenging.
But one of the things, we tend to use folk instrumentation. So it kind of keeps us in that range, while a song could lean almost a little rocky, or it can lean kind of pop. And with that instrumentation, we can still kind of keep this bubble around it, but give so many different vibes within, especially this series we're doing now. So it's been,
When you play, do you so you play piano, Morgan, and Luke, you play guitar, obviously. What other instruments do you add to that?
so yeah, I play piano. He plays guitar. We have a mandolin player who we love. He's from Columbia, Missouri. He's very, very good too. We also add upright bass. We sometimes have electric, but most of the time it's upright, which is I love those big.
Gives it that great color, sure.
Yeah, it's just such a nice tone. And drums. Sometimes we have banjo. Sometimes we have like a lead guitar line, whether it's acoustic or electric.
Violin.
Violin.
Yeah, it kind of varies. It depends on where you catch us too.
Yeah.
Because like, if you saw us in New York, we have a friend who plays viola who lives on Long Island, so she might be with us. And she was in actually when we first started. She went to college with us, and she moved up there, and she's actually in an opera.
She does opera, so she's
Stony
amazing.
Brook. But so if we're up there, you'll see us with a viola, and then if you see us down in Texas, you probably see us with like lead guitar and bass and drums, and then in Columbia, it's like fiddle and upright bass and mandolin. So
yeah, so you kind
of. So Of Sea and Stone has complete flexibility to do just you two both individually, and then to expand that to a more full band. I love that.
It's so fun, and it's neat too because we're so blessed with so many talented musicians throughout the country that you can always kind of have a little bit of a different texture wherever you see us. So yeah.
So tell us about your first recording, and first of all, where did you get the name Of Sea and Stone, and what does that mean to you guys?
So we started out actually under a different name called A Simple Exchange, and that was because of the exchange of our voices. And as we kept going, it was about 2 years down the road, we really wanted something metaphorical. I love imagery. Obviously, we also write songs, so we love to paint a picture with our voices. And we came up with Of Sea and Stone, and we honestly took a drive. We were headed on to play a show, I think in Arizona at the time, a festival, and we spent
not much sea, lots of stone, but
yeah, the complete opposite of Of Sea and
Despite
Stone.
what George Strait said, there is no oceanfront property there.
Yeah.
So I think I get the song now.
And we were just spitballing everything under the sun. Like, where are we gonna go with this? Like, what can we do? Like, I wanted to paint a picture, and well, we eventually came up with something that would interact. So when the sea is coming and into the tide's rising, it's going to hit the stone. It's going to either hit sand or stone. Stone is very stoic, and it's very strong and very stable. And in that respect, that's Luke. And you will see it in the way we move, the way we sing, the way we talk. You also hear it in our songs, that strength. And then I'm always moving. You can already tell because I talk with my hands. But between that and on stage, I'm always moving around the stage. It's all very visual, but also my emotions are, always up and down and around, and I have a lot of feelings. I'm a very in the feels type person. And so it's kind of a really good balance. And even though the sea retreats and it goes back and kind of does its own thing and has its own feelings, it comes back together with the stone. So that image of them crashing together is both a beauty in that what we can make together, but also kind of we're very different people. So that's kind of where it's a long-winded version of kind of where.
I love that. It's so poetic and elegant and beautiful, and it really does match up beautifully with your music. And I just thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's special to us, and I think just having that imagery, it's fun when you hear it in our voices in every song we record.
So tell us about your songwriting process. Do one of you generally write the lyrics, or do you both write the lyrics? How do you bring a song to life? Or does it change from song to song?
It varies a little bit. Generally speaking, I sit around with my guitar and just play stuff, and that's where most of the stuff, the material, starts from, I guess.
Whether it's chords or a line.
Yeah, so I start playing something, and then I come up with a theme of a song, and then sometimes I'll write the whole song, and there may not necessarily be from her perspective. But a lot of times I try and, since we are a duo, I try and write from my perspective. And as you might imagine, we write a lot of love songs and a lot of heartbreak songs. So I try and leave
Universal human experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. But so I try and write the my part, my perspective, and then leave space in the song for her to put her lyrics in, and
yeah, and kind of give like that other perspective from the other side of the story, or even if it's still within the same theme or they're thinking the same thing, it could be like for a different reason. So it feel like it kind of like throws out this big net, because you can get like people who are feeling one way, people who are feeling the other, and in a song you might have both. So for us, like he definitely starts everything, and then we kind of bring it together and we work on it together. Unless it's, you know, a song from one perspective, which we do have several of those too, where the harmony, I just kind of lay in the harmony in the back. But yeah, it's a fun process. I think like we do a lot, and then when we go into the studio, the song grows into something complete. It evolves into this whole other realm, you know. So
yeah, I get to do the fun part of like, I'm always sitting around, I'm like playing guitar and writing songs while she's like figuring out how much we owe in taxes this year. Like she takes care of the nuts and bolts while I get to do the fun part, and then we go in the studio and we self-produce most of our stuff. And she has a great ear for hearing, like she hears little like things in the songs, even like just clicks and these things that I'm not paying attention to that. And so she's like doing this tedious work, and then I get to come and be like, I don't like that violin there, and just like, oh, we just worked forever on that. So I think I have the easier job too. But.
No.
You guys complement each other beautifully. I love that.
Yeah.
That kind of synchronicity when two minds are much more than the individual parts and make something really special happen.
Yeah, it's definitely we're a team.
Yeah.
And it's cool that bleeds into like music and then into our marriage, because, you know, we eventually got married after I got him to date me. So
And that must be interesting, being a married couple on the road must be a challenge to maintaining your schedule and touring and traveling. And what's that like? It must be a real joy to share that with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, the places that we've gotten to go to together, you know, and I've seen big artists talk about it, even, you know, they could do a world tour and then they want to go back and go to all the places again because they really didn't get to see them.
Yeah.
And there's definitely that element, but being that we are indie band, you know, and we can schedule in a few days for ourselves, and you know, so we've seen a ton of this country, and it is really nice to be able to do that as a couple. But by the same token, it's also you know, it is a challenge to separate you know, you're working together all day, and then you're a couple. So it's like, you know,
you have to leave the work at the door one of these days, you know, to kind of put down the guitar. And
I struggle with that one.
Leaving the work at the door, and like, you know, the arguments over like something musically, that like, should this lyric or that lyric, or how should this sound? And then it's like, okay, but that's a work issue, and that's separate from what are we going to watch tonight, you know?
What are we having for dinner?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's cooking? Who's ordering out?
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard so many stories. We've had a lot of bands on, and you know, we talk about the challenge of life on the road and how really a lot of bands break up because of the challenges of the people have to spend so much time together. So that's really that's a really beautiful thing. They get to share that.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like,
well, we have a legal contract, so.
Very good. So tell us about your first song that you wrote together. How did it work out, and what was it, and how did you know that there was something really special there when you actually wrote your first song together?
So our first song that we pretty much worked on together, you had brought it to the table. So what happened was we met, and then I had a show a week later. So that day we met, we sang together, and then the next day I'm like, hey, you want to play the show with me next week? And so really quick, like in a week, we're like, all right, what are we gonna play? So we got 3 to 4 songs, original songs together in a week, which was pretty wild.
Wow,
Like a
that's crazy.
now.
Yeah, it was crazy. I don't know if we could do that anymore, but it's like, wow, we did it. And a lot of those, they're kind of our first songs, or at least our first projects, but he kind of had them sitting in a pile like that he was playing on his own. And then we kind of rewrote and reworked them to be like 2 perspectives,
Like,
like our harmonies, add the duo vibe. And we had all that with.
I think actually our first song was called New York for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
At least that was the first song that was good enough that I still know how to play it.
Yeah.
It's stood the test of time.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And that was one of those 4 for sure.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And that it's actually out too. It's on Spotify.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that. I love to ask that question. Has that found its way onto live performances and to recording? And I'm glad it does.
Yeah, so it was, and it's under our old name. We will, however, and we had decided this a few months ago, I guess, that we are going to rework it and release it under Of Sea and Stone. Because, it was also our first time recording, and we didn't really know each other, and we've come a long way, I'll say.
Yeah, the blend has gotten better, and just knowing, like, the difference between, there is a little slight difference between just being able to sing and being able to perform, and then being able to go in the studio, and it feels weird and like not organic sometimes. So it took me a long time to be comfortable recording music, especially my voice. It's also like when people who don't hear themselves talk a lot, which I'm sure you do, but every once in a while we'll have someone that we bring on a live stream or something like that they don't hear themselves a whole lot recorded, and they're universally freaked out by their sound.
They're disappointed, like, oof, I sound like that.
Yeah.
I thought I sounded like Tom Selleck, but
Yeah, I'm a tenor, right? I have this tenor speaking voice, and my son's got this great baritone bass voice, and we do a radio show, and I'm like, can you please do all the voice ends, because you're such a better voice than I do.
Yes.
That's something good, but.
There is, and it definitely takes some getting used to, I'll say, like listening to it and hearing it back. But now you're like, he's just gotten so good in the studio. I mean, you can get things done in 1 or 2 takes, and I'm like, wow, dang.
It's a learning curve, right? We've had so many artists on talking about that, how just like anything else, it takes time to get comfortable in the studio. It takes time to get to make it natural. Nothing like in music is actually natural. It's all learned, right? It's like whether you're an opera singer, whether you're a concert violinist, or whether you're singing like you do, it's all going to take time to get to really congeal and to gel. And I think performing for years really gives you that strength, and then you hone it for the studio.
Yeah, that's true.
It does, and when we toured, we just got so tight. I mean, every little inflection. Every single change, it was just right on the money. And so now, especially having COVID, that's something we pivoted, we started recording, but during that time, like we noticed a difference, like compared to like we could just go in and just knock out a song in the studio because you were playing it every night on the road and you were so tight on that. That was different when we weren't touring. It was a lot more prep work because we hadn't played them live as much.
And unlike every band that we've spoken to, you guys didn't have to socially distance during COVID. You guys can just keep on recording, keep practicing, keep rehearsing. You're like the only band I know that's going to be able to say that.
Yeah, we are lucky.
So in a way, it's a silver lining there. So you were able to. Have you done a ton of songwriting during this period, or have you done a lot of recording or streamed concerts? Everyone's been so different with this. I'm really fascinated to explore how the creative artists have been creative during COVID when we couldn't do live performances, or very few.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were just talking about this the other day. While all of our stuff and everything that we expected to do was canceled, just like I'm sure everyone is dealing with the same thing, we ended up being way busier than we thought because they all knew we were home and together.
Yeah.
So it was
good point.
Calls and texts like, oh, can you do this live, or let's do this showcase on virtual, and like the next thing you knew, everyone knew we were here at our home. So we were getting a lot of random, fundraisers, which were great, and we had so much fun with them too. But just things that we realized, wow, how did we get this busy? I really thought it was going to be a complete dead time.
Yeah.
And then
the as far as live shows, slim, but we did.
But there were a few.
Yeah, we did in like the neighborhood shows where folks are in their lawn or on their porch and playing for it. Like I said, I want to keep doing that just because it's a great way. It sort of shifted my perspective. We've done house concerts and stuff, but it always felt like, man, we really need to be playing in a venue to be legitimate. But sometimes it's hard to get people out to a venue, especially if you're on the road and in a new place. And so, I mean, I'm not going to turn up my nose at a whole neighborhood of people, just hanging out, wanting to hear live music.
And those house concerts are great. Granted, all of them stopped during COVID, because it was their home. But now we're starting to have people a little more comfortable with that and kind of getting some things booked for farther down the line into late fall and spring. So crossing our fingers that those do pan out with, everything, and we'll see how it goes, the next few months. But
yeah, it's gonna be a gradual rollout. I have my first concert coming up July 11th. I'm doing a choir festival at Ocean Grove, and we usually have between 700 and 800 singers come in and a couple thousand in the audience as it builds excitement. We don't know what we're gonna have this year, but we're just so happy to be rehearsing again.
I know, I bet. And then there's such a void that like your heart needs and your mind needs. Like, I'm so glad y'all are getting back together with it and all the.
But I think it's all music. I think it's orchestral music. I mean, Broadway and operas, everything has stopped. So it's like everybody is just like is looking and searching. Say, come on, we need to get back on that stage. But I think we see it all coming. Everyone's starting to turn those wheels again and make those plans. And what was it like doing the porch concerts and just performing informally for people who really needed it?
It was really cool, and especially it was one of my favorites too. It was just everyone kind of brought their lawn chairs out. I mean, there were people barbecuing in their front yard. Like everyone had their coolers sitting on their porch or in their yard, and gosh, it was a good time. Like everyone was needing that human connection and able to have it at a distance on their own land. And we were on the corner. So you had all this street and all this street. And then you had people walking their dogs who would stand there and be like, wow, this is cool. And you'd have
just hear it
riding their bikes, or they'd hear it from their house and go pop up a little place, on the street. And we did have.
All you need is live music and to remind people how important it is. I mean, because honestly, I think a lot of us, and me included as a conductor, I hadn't done a live rehearsal or performance in a year. I've been doing 6 to 8 Zoom. I teach at a university and I do a lot of conducting, a lot of Zoom rehearsals just to keep my communities together. But it's not the same thing. There's not the same immediate touch when you have people in front of you, even at a distance. I mean, it's a very special thing to share music.
Yeah, it is, and there's such a feeling there, that connection.
Yeah, I think it obviously was very easy to take for granted before, and I think even during COVID when people were apart, it was still underestimated how important being around people and sharing experiences with people is for yourself and just for as a community, just as far as being kind to each other. Like when you can go out and share an experience with someone who has a different life experience than you, and the perspective you gain from that, and just it's a lot easier to be nice to people when you have those experiences in your life.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds us all what is essential, because where would we all be without the entertainers, without Netflix, and without Spotify, and all those things that kept us all sane during COVID?
Yeah,
exactly.
I cannot imagine this in a different time frame. I can't imagine. No FaceTime, no Zoom.
Well, I think that's why
different world.
I think that's why the pandemics used to be even worse than they are now.
Yeah, that's true.
People didn't have anything else to do. So.
I never thought I'd live through one, but we are so blessed from the things.
Who would have thought that this could be even possible? Because we're all going through our busy schedules. You guys are touring, I'm traveling, and all of a sudden everything stops, and we've all had to. I say everyone's become a philosopher during the COVID period. And what are some things that each of you have learned about yourselves out of this period?
I would say my biggest one is just human connection. I learned that really quickly. Even just having each other, that's so great. But I thrive on being around people. I'm very outgoing. I need to have a day of rest, too. But it was really strange to not have that performing in front of people. And then my favorite part of it is actually talking to them all after and having these like moments where people are telling me like what touched them and like what was special. I love hearing about everyone's feelings and like how they're doing. I love making those connections and just getting to know them face to face and say hi, like, you know, what's your name? Those moments, like I missed that a lot. It was very hard for a bit to not have that.
We all get used to that. That's like what we do as performers. We touch people's lives, and that's my favorite thing too, is to talk to people about how the music interact and how it changed their lives.
Yeah.
For sure. I think for me it was sort of a reminder, being on the road so much, and before that we had lived in Austin for a little bit after we got married, and so I was away from friends and family. Well, we both were away from friends and family. And you sort of get used to that, you know. It's almost like being COVID, you know, phone calls, that kind of stuff, and actually being forced to not travel constantly. It kind of reminded me of how important a lot of those connections are, because like, you know, friends that I hadn't seen in a long time, you know, not that you could really do a whole lot with them, but I mean, it was much more like present. I had the presence of mind. All of a sudden I had a little bit of time to sit and think, like, you know, I haven't talked to this person in a while. And like, you know, I saw that their dad was sick, so I'm gonna, you know, call them. And that was probably my biggest takeaway, is just slowing down and remembering to ground yourself in something a little bit.
That's a great lesson, because all musicians need that, because we spend so much time in the process of creating art that it's very easy to lose those connections when you're really busy all the time. And that's really important. That's going to be, I think, both of your discoveries, that's going to be really important as we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us. It's really exciting. So now, what are you working on right now? You were mentioning in the pre-show, we were talking about some really awesome innovations and some projects coming up. Tell us what you've been working on, these multiple songs during COVID.
Yeah, so actually, we had the plan. We had all these songs. Now, we didn't have them in order. And we were just sitting one night. We had a lot of time during COVID, like most of us. We were like, how can we just turn this into and create this into a story, or something that's gonna, like, you want every single song, you want to keep them coming back, you want to keep it interesting, instead of just being like, here's a single, here's another single, like here's another single. And we came up with this whole release plan of an 8 to 9 potentially series that's like a whole story series. So you get to hear each song and you get another piece of the story, and it's one continuous story. And they're almost like episodes, I guess.
That's really cool. And you know, this is the era of the short release, right? Everyone puts out a song here. I think that's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Who came up with the story?
I did come up with that idea. Well, we were talking that her sister is doing the artwork for this, because it's all line art.
Neat.
Yeah.
And
she's super talented.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what to do, and
give her a shout out.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's super talented. Kinsey Manson. She's on Instagram. Kinsey Lux Creations. So yeah, she's done all the artwork for us. She's very, very good. She's got an Etsy as well if you want anything personal. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was looking at what she was doing, and we were just kind of talking about these songs and correspondent. I just thought like it'd be really neat if, so it's kind of a scene or a set. And then I was like, what if I don't want to give away the whole story, but as it progresses,
be vague.
Yeah, the set remains the same, but the things happening within it are evolving with the story. So you get like a visual piece too, which was kind of cool, because it's like another opportunity to be creative.
Yes.
And you also get like we're gonna eventually, once they're all out as singles, we're gonna put them on a vinyl, and you still get that album experience, because I like the full album format. I like having songs that
I miss that, to be honest. I miss that with today's artists. Most of them, people ignore that. It's like listening to The Wall or listening to like Dark Side of the Moon or any album where an artist painstakingly crafts this, like curates this together. It's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So trying to bring that in, not lose that,
Yeah.
but still give.
And why vinyl?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's just cool.
We've been wanting.
It is cool. It is really cool.
I've been wanting to do vinyl for a really long time, and I like personally love the idea, especially since these singles are all in order and they're all one big story. I love the idea of having like 4 of them on one side and 4 on the other, and you can listen to them in order, just like you do with the record player. You just drop that pin, you let it play that whole story out. You get them one after another, then you flip it over. I just think it's a very like great way to tell this story that we're telling with singles and keep it relevant and modern, but also get that album visual, and have our other idea too with like all the single artwork being an actual piece of art for each song that changes and evolves, and you see it. Hopefully, in the album itself or in the vinyl, we'll have slid in a piece that has all of those as like a booklet that you can see and watch them change, flip through each piece of the story. So we've got some cool ideas in the works.
I love that concept. What a cool idea and an image. And we'll have to all check that. Everyone's got to check that out. Everyone, all the listeners, make sure you're listening to that, all 8 or 9 of those different songs. So tell us what does it mean to be an indie artist today? And I call this the era of the indie artist because artists have like an unparalleled way to get their music out with all of the streaming platforms and Spotify and YouTube and all these, but it's so hard to break through the white noise. So what are some of the joys and challenges of being like an indie artist in 2021?
Saying I like goes, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. And so, back in the day, you had to work really hard and hopefully get noticed by the gatekeepers, and then they let a very few through to the labels, and then you might sign a label deal and then go nowhere. And but you had that label behind you too, so there was some value to that system in weeding out, white noise. I think what is happening now is indie artists is better. It's pretty. I want to say it's an even playing field necessarily, but it's much closer to one. And like you said, there is no barrier to getting your music out and having people hear it. So, in that sense, I really enjoy it, and I enjoy sort of that onus being on us to create demand for our music, and but it is challenging. I think Spotify gets 50,000 songs a day added or something, which is
unbelievable.
Just,
probably a second or something like that. It's crazy. Well, YouTube does like that too. It's like the amount of videos that get uploaded is ridiculously possible to comprehend.
It is like the amount of minutes is an astronomical number that gets uploaded every day.
We're adding to that as we speak.
Yeah, exactly. So it's.
But I love the idea that what I love about this indie conversation we're having is that people don't want a plastic artist. They don't want the country singer singing about X. They really want to get to know the people that they're supporting, and you build an audience that really wants to know who you two are, and they come back because of who you are.
Right.
And I love that kind of realism.
Yeah, and I think like that's what's so cool about indie artistry in general too, because you're on and social media, even though there's so many different things to be on, you're finding those people and they're coming back because they want to see you on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and they want to get to know you. It's not just like your songs are out and they can listen to your songs, but they can also get a personal view of your life.
I think that's one of like we were talking about the vinyl. It is so much more intentional to listen to something on vinyl because of the process involved in turning it all on and setting it up.
Yeah.
And so like for us as artists and the type of music that we make, it's not going to be top 40 radio stuff necessarily, but we know who our audience is, and we know that our audience, if they like our music, they do like something that's a little bit deeper experience, a little bit more intentional.
And our stuff is very personal.
And you get to make those decisions without somebody being like, I don't know if that's gonna. That's not
gonna needs to be 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That's it. Cut off that extra.
And we need the 12 to 17 demographic. It's like you don't have to necessarily worry about those decisions. You just make art and do find your folks. You know.
Well, I was listening to Ordinary Things, and I saw over 54,000 views on that video, and I saw you have a bunch of people listening every month on Spotify, and that's growing and that's exciting, and I think that you're starting to build that real great core of people, and so I can't wait to watch that grow.
Yeah, thank you so much. Us as well. It's been such a wonderful experience too, just like finding our people and like our super fans and getting to like have them and have a relationship with them, not just like we're not just looking at everyone as a number or as like a figure. It's like we have personal messages with people, and we've been able to go out and get a drink with people or go to dinner with some of our fans, and I know that they really appreciate that, but we appreciate it too, like just having that and building those connections with people.
Do you have any stories? But I'd love to ask, do you have any stories of maybe some of your fans who were been affected by your music? And since you probably have people can anywhere in the world can see you come from across the globe, give us some stories you have heard from people who've listened to your music.
So one of our songs, our top song, is called "I Love You Goodbye," and it is a heartbreak song. I think it's got almost 100,000 views on YouTube. It's close, 90 something.
Yeah.
But it's just one that just really got to someone, like to everyone that has listened to it on a very deep level. It's very heartbreak. I think most of us experience heartbreak in our lives, whether it is from a personal like relationship or a loss of a family member or what have you. So it like touched people in a way, and we saw that grow incredibly. One of which was a fan in Ireland who personally messaged me on Instagram actually, and was like, "Oh my gosh, my mom and I just listened to your song together and we cry, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful message." Another fan story was in Dallas, Texas. Jasper, he came to a show. He loved that song. He came to a show, and he comes to see us every time we're down there. And we got to know him afterward because that's our favorite part. Like I said, is meeting them. So we were like, "Hey, we're actually going to go to this other place and like grab dinner and a drink. Do you want to come?" He gets in our car with all of our stuff and we drive there. We're like, "Let's go," those kind of moments. What else can you think of that is stories wise? We've had so many people write in on our Facebook comments, especially on that video. Ordinary Things was very similar though too, because it was coming out right after COVID, and it's like this song about appreciating those ordinary things, those things that really get lost in the shuffle on a day-to-day basis, or those things that we couldn't do during COVID that were ordinary to us, like shows and stuff like that. And so a lot of people were really touched by that song as well, having all in the entire world experience the same experience in different ways, and realizing like just how important those special moments are, the ordinary things that we do every day that all of a sudden disappeared.
I think it's so beautiful that the music that you create together out of your love and your musical synchronicities affects so many people. And I think that's what music's all about. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the human connections, one of the ways we connect. So.
Now, I heard a rumor that you may perform a piece live on the air.
we just might.
What do you have for us today?
All right, so we're going to do a fairly new song. This is Little Morning Song. It is not recorded yet, but you just may see it soon.
It's exciting.
Hopefully.
This is Of Sea and Stone, playing live.
Let me just hit this one real quick.
Yeah, just make sure it's a little tuned up.
Always good to be in tune when you're harmonizing.
But like I said, the humidity around here, it's like the hardest place in the world to own a guitar.
So this is Little Morning Song. Don't know how to keep my head above the water. and it's getting hard to breathe. This give and take, it only has so much to offer, and I think you finally see when the curtain's drawn and the sunlight dawns, we're the only things left. Damn, I know it hurts. Said you wouldn't leave me words. Don't tell me it's for the best. When the walls came down, we finally figured out the beauty doesn't come without a cause. There's space in between what we say and mean. It wasn't what we had, it's what we lost. It wasn't what we had, it's what we lost. Don't know how to change the lines we've been tracing. Used to have your number in my phone. Battle scars from the war that we've been waging are the only thing that keeps us hanging on. When the curtain's drawn, can't you stay too long, and you know it was 1,000 little things. And every single breath is running through your head, and that little moment song we used to sing. When the walls came down, we finally figured out the beauty doesn't come without a cause. There's space in between what we say and mean. It wasn't what we had, it's what we lost. It wasn't what we had, it's what we lost. It's been so goddamn many lean away, 'cause you were right. Like when you said it was for the best, it's for the best. It's been so goddamn many nights since I got to rest. When the walls came down, we finally figured out the beauty doesn't come without a cost. There's space in between what we say and mean. It wasn't what we had, it's what we lost. No, it wasn't what we had, it's what we lost. It wasn't what we had, it's what we lost.
Just stunning. Thank you so much for sharing that. Beautiful harmonies, beautiful song. I love to hear great music, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having us, honestly. It's been an honor.
So how can people find out more about you both and about of Sea and Stone, and where can they go to hear your music and subscribe and support you guys?
We would love for anyone to follow us on Facebook of Sea and Stone. We're also on Instagram, and we'd love a follow there too of Sea and Stone Music. Everywhere else, it's of Sea and Stone. And you'll find our music on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We actually have a song coming out July 9th. So if you want to...
Around the corner, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's just chapter 3 on July 9th. And if you go to our Instagram bio and click the link, you can pre-save the song. It's the first link there. So we would really appreciate it. And on Spotify, if you want to give it a listen on release day, we'd love it. So.
It's chapter 3. It's called We All Say Forever.
Yes,
So.
It's called We All Say Forever. And you can hear the first 2 songs as well on our Spotify, Apple Music, etc.
So. For sure.
And I can catch up on the last 2 and then get ready for the next ones that come out. That's exciting. Well, thank you so much to both of you, Luke and Morgan. And I can't wait to see where your music goes in the months to come and the years to come. And continued success and love to you both.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on all the social media channels as well. Thank you so much. And remember, keep music alive.